All right, today is Tuesday, August 25th, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Spent the last few days putting some finishing touches on Passage, the new 8-track album. Very loud, abrasive, maybe that's the word. I kept calling this minimalist. This is part 4 of this talk. I kind of split it up as I was recording this album. I wasn't sure if I would do a part 4, but I figured I had some new things to talk about. So this album took me about, I guess, 3 weeks. I don't really keep track too much, but I would assume it took me about 3 weeks to get actual multi-track going. So that's pretty good pace every day, maybe 8 to 9 hours. Today I just listened to the album maybe twice, or maybe it was twice in a row, to get a feeling of the track order. That's kind of the process now, to make sure it flows correctly. Really, all I did in editing today was cut some of the outros to make it flow better to the next track, because this is meant to be a concept that flows all together seamlessly. Hopefully people get that. It's not an album you just listen to one song. I'm going for that ambient approach. I guess you call it just ambient approach, where you don't really listen to one ambient song. If you want to listen to an ambient album, in my opinion, you got to set aside half an hour to an hour, and you have to live with the music, immerse yourself in the atmosphere. That's the difference between that and like a pop album. And I kept telling myself that, or reminding myself, that I'm not trying to write songs right now that could be radio songs or actual songs with melodies. I'm just going for sound baths, what I kept calling sound baths, which I like that term. I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of that. I just like how it describes what music should do. You can barely hear my vocals in any of these tracks, so I'm fine with that. I'm actually happy with that. Sound bath. Who came up with that term? Who came up with that term? That sounds like something I should Google. The term sound bath is widely credited to sound therapist Tom Kenyon. All right, Tom Kenyon. It's about wellness and sonic therapy. That sounds interesting. To bathe yourself in acoustic vibrations. This is coming from just Google. This quick search I just did. Tom Kenyon. I'll have to look him up. Sound bath. Yeah, that's what I'm going for with this. It's loud. It is kind of abrasive. That's a word I don't use much, but that kind of defines it, I think. Abrasive means what? Rough enough to scrape a surface. It's not going to hurt your ears. I don't want to make it seem like that. But it could get loud, and the layers, it might take you multiple listens to notice different things, which is kind of cool. I've listened to this maybe 4 times now with this track order, a couple times last night, but I fell asleep. Just because, not because the music was boring, hopefully not. I just fell asleep while listening to it. But this music could be listened to in the background while you're doing stuff, reading or working, or when you're working out, or you just want to zone out. Close your eyes and put on headphones. I'd recommend headphones when you listen to this, or Citizen Binary. It's just, I very rarely listen to anything without headphones unless it's just a podcast. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going to ramble for another maybe 10, 20 minutes and see if I can come up with anything interesting about this process. I made a big list of albums I need to listen to, because as I'm listening to this album, Passage, I've been reading that David Toop book, which I mentioned a couple times already, Ocean of Sound. I got like 30 pages left. It's been pretty good, but I get distracted because he mentions all these different bands, so I have to make a list. I have a list on my album of the year page with like 2,000 albums to listen to at some point in my life. So who knows? I like to go on there sometimes if I feel like relaxed and I want to listen to some random shit. And AOTY, it allows you to just make a playlist or list a bunch of albums, and then it'll select one at random. So that's kind of what I do with that. I don't like to force myself to listen to something. Like, for example, this week I felt it was necessary to listen to Weezer because that was being hyped up, the Gold album, and I liked it. It was only 30 some minutes, and I was like, all right, I got the attention span for this. And it was good. I did write a review on my album of the year page. Very quick, just like one little paragraph of what I liked on that album. It was pretty good. I listened to it again, but yeah, I'm not a music critic. I'm not getting paid to review shit, so I don't care. Whatever I listen to is just what the universe is guiding me to on that specific moment. There's a bunch of stuff I haven't listened to anything this year in terms of what's commercially successful. I haven't listened to much at all. Besides that Phoebe Bridgers, I don't think anything else I've listened to is really all that commercially in your face, hyped up. But, sometimes it is actually good music too. So you have to separate those two. Oh, this is just corporate plants and corporate drivel music. But some of that can be good. So it's a weird, I don't know. You don't want to shit on everything that's popular because some of it's actually good. Like the Phoebe Bridgers stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now with listening to stuff. I haven't listened to a lot of music. I'm just making a list of what to listen to in the future. Listening to podcasts is more enjoyable right now because it kind of puts me in a more mellow headspace. I just kind of zone out better if I'm working out. And it's just relaxes the brain from listening to music and music over and over again. Because I'm listening to headphones maybe 5-6 hours a day, which it really isn't much. I'm sure if you're a professional producer, you're probably listening to your studio monitors or headphones like all day long, all night long. But I think I've done a pretty good job so far with the mixing and the editing, coming up with weird soundscapes and layering to make it interesting. I'm just trying not to bore myself. So as these drones go on for 4 minutes, it's an 8-track album, but it's only about 34 minutes, I think. So it's not very long or drawn out or full of itself, at least according to me, at least. According to my personal opinion of when an artist can be full of himself or herself. So I'm trying to stay away from that because I was doing that at first, making like 15-minute songs, like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then I just have to delete it and start over again. And I'm not against that either. Like sometimes a 15-minute drone is warranted, or just a 30-minute drone. Like there was a album I listened to a couple years ago. It was a tribute to like Terry Riley's birthday or something. It was like 30 some minutes of nonstop. Maybe I can find it. Terry Riley Poppy something. Yeah, I gotta find this now. I know he has a song called Poppy No Good. Maybe I think it was for his birthday. Let me see if I can find it. All right, maybe I'll share it later since I don't know how to look it up right now. But yeah, sometimes there could be an ambient album that goes on for 30, 40 minutes. I think that's Charlemagne Palestine, dude. Or I don't even know, is that a band or one dude? I don't even know. But I remember him, Charlemagne Palestine, American visual artist and musician. And yeah, he had one album I listened to that was pretty long, just went on for a while. A lot of ambient stuff's like that. But I'm not at that point where I can just develop, be as patient as I want to be to develop a 30-minute piece of music that doesn't stop. And I don't have the capability to do that right now because I would want to play it and really get zoned out like Indian raga music does. So right now I'm just kind of constructing these albums with 4 or 5, maybe 6 minutes the most drones, and then putting them together to fit a theme, a concept, and to make them flow together. That was the most important thing, to make the album flow, so it does seem like a cohesive 35-minute piece of music, even though it's split up and I wrote these songs on different occasions. So what else can I talk about? Yeah, I made a note. I started another email thread 4 days ago, and just random thoughts that pop in my head, like when Andre 3000 made that ambient flute album, and he wasn't even sure that's what he was aiming for, I think, according to Google here. Andre 3000, he genuinely did not mean to make an ambient jazz flute record when he first started recording it. He wanted to rap, but he eventually went towards this weird ambient album with other artists, and that came into my head because I was trying to do hip hop originally, and it just didn't work on Citizen Binary. American Refugee, which was the basis for this album, and I used a lot of those ideas to form the music, which became Passage. Maybe halfway through, I changed everything up again. So that made me think of that you don't know where the music and the art's going to take you, so just kind of go with the flow a little bit. And that was something that stayed in my head for a day or two. I kept thinking of that album. What's it called? Something Sun. Andre 3000. From maybe 3 years ago. Ambient album. Yeah, it's called New Blue Sun. If you don't know it, check it out. It's over an hour of really good ambient music. I made another note. I don't know why I was thinking about David Foster Wallace. I'm not the guy who reads complicated books like that. I tried to read Infinite Jest maybe 10 years ago, and I got through maybe 100 pages and gave up. I think I gave up because I kept going back and forth to the footnotes, back and forth, and I kept losing patience or interest in it. But I know a lot of his like future accounts of what America was going to become. I don't know when he killed himself, right? I think he did, but he died. David Foster Wallace in 2008. So he kept talking about how corporations, the United States would kind of turn into a corporate states of America, which a lot of people kind of put into fiction like that. But again, I'm not the right person to speak on his behalf. But some reason I made that connection. I don't know. I think there is a part of Infinite Jest, yeah, and this is coming from Google again. Like, I never got through that whole book. Maybe I'll give it a shot at another point in my life. But he was a lot of satire about consumerism and how I think the Decemberists have a music video about that. How the world, how not the world. Well, you could say that globally too, but the United States would be kind of factions of corporations, and I kind of made that comparison. Maybe I was listening to a Phillies game or something, and how every stadium is named after a bank or some corporate sponsor. Maybe that's kind of a symbolic look at that. I don't know how that connects to this album, but the original concept was a more American specific theme. I was trying to write some America in the future where it becomes all dystopian, but I gave up on that. But that's the original concept from like 10 whatever it was 10 years ago or whatever the hell it was. But that's kind of interesting how, because things weren't like that in the 70s and 80s, right? Like, I don't think any stadiums were named after banks or insurance groups or whatever the fuck else. So it's weird. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, it's a different reality living in the corporate sponsored United States. Everything has a sponsor like that. Maybe that had to do with some of the themes I was originally thinking about. But again, there's like minimal lyrics on this. I wrote a lyric page, and it's through these 8 tracks, maybe there's like 12 lyrics. Each song has like 1 or 2 mantras, and that's it. So I will include another doodle book on Bandcamp, at least. If you buy this off of Bandcamp, and I'm going to set it with no price. That's what I did for Citizen Binary. I originally put $4, but I realized no one's even going to go on my page. So I just made it free. Maybe somebody is interested in the album cover or the song previews and maybe want to throw me a couple bucks. So I thought $4 was a good price for a 30-minute album, digital, plus all the artwork I did. But you could do whatever you want. Give me $1, $2, $1 million, whatever you want to give me. So that's how I'm going to do it with this one too. I'll put it on Bandcamp. And I think I'm pretty much done with it. I'm happy with how it sounds. I can't layer much more on top of these songs. BandLab's good. It gives you about 32 layers on the multi-track. Once you go past that, it gets all kind of muddled anyway, where you can barely hear certain things, but I like the subtlety, so I'm fine with that. Again, I'm interested in that layering of how people do it. Producers, My Bloody Valentine, that famous story for Loveless, right? And like, I don't know, Siamese Dream, I always give that example. When you're layering so much distortion, I would like to learn more about techniques like that. But going back to Citizen Binary, a couple days ago, I listened to it again, and I wasn't happy with Fool and the Fallout Centrifuge. So I went back and deleted it. I had to go back to DistroKid, delete the whole album, and then re-upload it with just 5 tracks. And I think it's better. It's still 33 minutes. It's not like I didn't like that song. I just don't think it fit. I think it was a little bit cheesy. So it's weird. At one point I thought it was like my favorite song on the album. And then I listened to it again and I was like, it just doesn't fit the flow of this. So I just got rid of it, and I'll save it. Maybe I could use it down the road for something else. So now, I wrote another. Right after I did that, I was like, it's a weird process to judge your own music. Like, I've listened to thousands of ambient albums throughout my life, and I don't know, some of them hit me, some of them don't, but when you make your own music or make your own art, it's hard to judge it as good or bad. It takes time just to live with it. Hopefully that doesn't happen again with this one, where I'll release this in a couple days or I'll probably release it on Saturday. That seems like the day I do this. So I'll put it on Instagram and Substack when it's available. This one's a lot louder and a lot more in your face. So if you like that type of noise rock, you'll probably enjoy this. And yeah, there's not much of a lyrical concept. It's just whatever I was feeling when I listened to these tracks, and I had to develop some kind of mantra or chant. Whatever words came to my head, I just went with my first instinct again. Um, yeah, I also mentioned John Carpenter on this email thread. I'm just looking through this email over the last 4 days of what I was thinking about as I edited this album. And I mentioned John Carpenter because sometimes I'll listen to some of the synthesizer stuff I'm doing and I hear like his style, even though I don't know his stuff that well. So I got to go back and listen to John Carpenter stuff. I like his movies and his music. So he's a pretty big influence on me, which I never really talk about. Besides Halloween, like Halloween's not just my favorite horror movie. It's probably like in my top 10 just movies in general of all time. Halloween, the original. I just really love the style of that movie. And the music makes it work, even at a much more creepy level. So, yeah, I got to go back and go through John Carpenter's stuff. Not just his soundtracks, but just, I think he has his own original music, just without connection to any movies, but I don't know enough about it. All right, what else? Well, maybe my OCD is kind of gone. I don't really have OCD. Sometimes I have weird, I don't know what to call them, eccentric quirks. I don't know, whatever the fuck term you want to put on it. But whenever I was writing stuff for my book, I needed to have 6, 8, 10, or 12 songs per album. And I thought about that when I deleted The Fool and the Fallout Centrifuge. I was like, oh no, that only leaves me with 5 tracks. The world's gonna end now. But I was like, fuck it. It's still 33 minutes, 5 songs. Number 5 will always love you. It's a tribute to Donovan McNabb. Hi, I'm Donovan McNabb. You should start your day with a hearty breakfast at McDonald's. So yeah, maybe those mental quirks go away if you just don't give a shit anymore. I used to be more anxious about shit and more paranoid about shit, especially during the 2020 era. And I used to have some OCD stuff, but it kind of just goes away after a while. What else can I talk about? I wrote to thank Kimbra again, yeah, because this whole journey of making actual music started in 2022 or 23 with an email saying you should check out Substack, check out Kimbra's Substack. I never knew what Substack was, and I wasn't even a fan of Kimbra. And then I went there and I checked it out, and I was like, this is cool. I got into her music for a good couple months, and I still like it. I still say that The Golden Echo is like one of the best pop albums, and her other ones are good. And yeah, that led me to create my own Substack, organize all my albums over the next 2 years, and then write my book. And now I'm just trying to evolve it into actual music using these virtual instruments. And I talked about that. Is it kind of sacrilegious to only use virtual stuff? It's not like AI is making the music. I'm making the melodies. I'm using the instruments on BandLab and the other synthesizer app on my phone, and I'm the one playing it. I'm the one creating the melodies based on my old audio files, so there's no AI involved besides the phone is actually producing the music that I'm playing as an instrument. So I don't think it's fake music. I'm not telling AI to write me a song. I'm not using any artificial intelligence to create or compose the music or vocals. I might put effects on stuff. Definitely do that, yeah. The distortion, the guitar amps that I use on BandLab. That's different than telling a quantum computer, write me a song that sounds like Tom Petty mixed with, I don't know, Adele or whatever the fuck you want to sound like. That would be completely faking it, yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to create noise rock, noise ambient. I don't know what else to really call it because it's something that I can do authentically, and I think it comes out pretty good. I can't do, I don't know, like a 3-minute pop song. I haven't really tried it professionally, but that's not something I'm going to attempt to do right now. I'm just going to keep going with these ambient albums because that's where the flow is taking me, and I'm happy with that. The next project I'm going to do at some point is Oceans to keep this flow going, keep the momentum going hard. But it's going to be a quiet album. I already made some ideas to get some ocean sounds to use as the metronome in all the songs. I'm going to talk about this next weekend, maybe before, maybe this weekend coming up. I'll do that talk about Oceans of Sound because I've been reading that for like the last month and a half, off and on. Like it's only a 300-page book on my Kindle, but I haven't really read it I haven't been reading it every day, so it's taken me a while in between doing this stuff. But it's a good escape. I like it a lot. I'm just going to try to read more music books because there's a bunch that I have on my Kindle that I bought years ago that I never read. Music biographies. Yeah, R.I.P. Dolly Parton. Maybe last year I bought her book on Kindle, all her songs in one collection. It was pretty cool. So stuff like that is more interesting to me right now. Either poetry books, because I never finished the Wanda Coleman book, or music books is really all I'm going to be reading right now. I haven't given up on that. It's just my brain isn't in it right now to have those same talks every day or every couple days based on a book I read. So yeah, my next project's going to be more of a quiet meditation, which might be more difficult because it's going to be quiet, so I can't hide things. It's going to be out there, whispers. And there's an artist named Felicia Atkinson who I kind of liked how she approached that on one of her albums. Kind of ASMR type of stuff, but I don't know if I can do that with my voice. Gonna have to try to improvise things because this next album will be probably no distortion at all. Can I create a ambient album based on the ocean, which a million other people probably have done already? Even in that David Tuke book, he mentioned how years ago the sounds of the whales, that was like the big trendy thing back in the 90s, I guess. Sounds of whales became some hit ambient album like the Gregorian chanting did. I kind of remember that in maybe the early 90s, Gregorian chants became a big thing for a while. It had its day in the sun where everyone was rocking out to that. Or not everyone, but it became pretty popular mainstream. In that Enya era, yeah, he talks about it more in depth in his book. But I never got into it. I was a kid listening to Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer. But I guess that's basically everything. I'm at 30 minutes, so that's good. This is part 4. This is the final final installment of this process of creating Passage before I release this album. And again, I'll put it on Bandcamp first. I'm going to hold a listening party where nobody's going to show up, but I'll still do it anyway. Because at least I'll get in the habit of one day, if I become popular, at least I know how to work all these things. I said it in one of my earlier posts, I'm not the greatest with technology, but I've created 13 songs, 2 albums, 60 plus minutes of music over these last 2 months, just using my phone, virtual instruments, and I just got an iPad. The iPad was necessary. I was talking to myself last night. If it wasn't for the iPad, it would have taken me another week or maybe longer to create this album, and I probably would have got really frustrated and smashed my phone at some point. Joking, kind of, because it's hard to work 10, 12 hours a day looking at your phone, and I could have dealt with that, but it's more the audio problems on BandLab. You can't process 32 tracks on a phone. It just lags, and you can't even listen to it on the multi-track. Or my phone just isn't powerful enough. I don't know. I try to keep my phone clean every night, or every 2 nights. I clean out all unnecessary data on Instagram and Spotify, and when I was using BandLab, so I would keep the percentage down. So my phone is healthy. It's not like it's overloaded, but it can't process that. So I had to get the iPad. I'm not using the iPad, or at least I'm trying not to use it for anything else, and just focus on the music. But I still recommend BandLab. I was able to make 2 albums using BandLab primarily, and if you have patience and work with it, you can learn how to make some cool stuff. I'm not saying my stuff is reinventing anything, but it's pretty out there. I would say it's pretty avant-garde, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to really put a genre, but that's a good basis of where to start with. Drone noise, because there's not a lot of changes in these 4-minute drones. They're just drones that they'll change, with different variables, different instruments and different passages, different sounds, to not make people too bored. Because you might get bored with a band like Earth if you're not into it. I love it. I could listen to it and I won't get bored of it, but I'm trying to appease both sides of the spectrum. Because even myself, I was listening to Weezer. It's only 32 minutes, the Gold album, but I was like, I don't know, maybe I was just in a weird state of mind where I was losing patience with it. But yeah, it's a good album. Sometimes I'll put on an album and I just lose patience. Like I don't want to listen to it, but I'm forcing myself to. It wasn't like that in the past. I could just enjoy music and I wouldn't feel like I need to rate stuff. Now I feel like this need to rank and rate. I don't know. I guess I started it a couple of years ago. But I said I wouldn't put number ratings on a lot of stuff anymore unless it's like a perfect album. The reason I do that, if I find a new artist that is like a perfect album, I'm still creating a list of 501 albums, part 2 of albums that influenced me. So maybe I have like close to 300 now. I already put Weezer on it, so I didn't want to put a number rating on this one. But it's a good album. That's probably the best Weezer I've heard since like the Blue and Pinkerton, which are both hundreds for me. Blue album is probably my top like 20 albums, and just for the sound and nostalgia alone. And Pinkerton's really good, but this one's good. I kind of lost focus with Weezer over the decades, but it's cool they're still making stuff. But I guess I'll stop here. There's not much else to add to this conversation. But yeah, the next one's going to be different. So I can test myself to make more quiet, ambient stuff. Maybe I need to go listen to some quiet ambience and see what I can and cannot do with the synthesizers I have. But I'm really focused on creating ocean atmosphere, like you're at the shore, down the shore. That's what I'm trying to do right now. There is a site that I researched or I found that you could use the ocean sounds without any copyright problems. I came up with the album Oceans. I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm going to talk about it to death later on. But it's another album I created years ago, and the only concept was to have ocean waves as the metronome for every song as it fades in and out. So I don't know where that's going to take me, but I think it's a cool starting point, at least a jumping off point, jump to conclusions. So I'll see where that one takes me. There is a site, like I said, where you can use ocean sounds without any copyright, just sounds of waves or whatever else. I think I did originally, maybe more than 10 years ago. I was down in Atlantic City and I recorded ocean waves, just the sound of the waves crashing, but I don't know where that is anymore. So whatever, it's the fucking ocean. You can't copyright that, or you can't use it off of a CD. Like I can't copy it like that. But that's pretty much everything. I did want to use a couple things. Speaking of like sampling, David Toop, one of the chapters towards the end of the book, he mentioned sampling, and I forget plunderphonics, which is a weird word. I never knew what it was. I forget the guy's name, but he has the album cover is like a naked Michael Jackson who's a woman. If anyone ever heard of that. Plunderphonics. So anyway, sampling is weird. I wish I could sample stuff without getting permission, but you know, you can't. Everything's copyright crazy in this day and age. Maybe I could look it up because I just put it in my list of albums to listen to, albums to check out at some point. How do I do that? Newest first. No, not that. I gotta go. Hold on one second. It was kind of a shocking album cover. I never heard of the guy prior to reading David Toop. Yeah, there it is. Plunderphonic. It's just by the artist is called John Oswald. He's got some newer stuff from a couple years ago too. But he came up with an album in 1989, and the cover is like a naked Michael Jackson. It was a woman or a man, I don't even know. It's very odd, kind of obscene cover of a naked Michael Jackson. And it's supposed to use a lot of like weird samples cut up and whatever he did with it. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's got like 25 tracks. Some of them are only like a couple seconds long. Most of them are a couple minutes. But anyway, I wanted to use some samples throughout the album. Throughout passage, I had some clips from old audio files of like Portlandia episodes or some weird BBC game show. But I Googled real quick, are you allowed to use television clips if you're playing guitar and it's on in the background? And they said, nah, it's probably not recommended to do so. You need to have permission. So, sorry. Sometimes I just get paranoid about that, so I kind of deleted it. Or I put it in the mix with weird effects so you don't even know what it is. But I only had two of those. One of them was from like a Portlandia episode. And I was going to end one of the tracks with Carrie and Fred, some funny shit. I forget what episode it is. Might be the episode when they had their B&B. I don't remember. But I decided not to just in case. I don't want any copyright bullshit. Maybe in the future I could get permission if I want to do stuff like that. Because that's enjoyable to me. I like listening to stuff with funny references to pop culture or whatever. Sampling stuff is a cool kind of art form. I don't think it's stealing. You're reinterpreting, you know, the drums on When the Levee Breaks back in the 80s. People used that for hip hop or other shit. I don't think sampling is stealing. I really don't. You're just reinventing or using something in a different fashion. Yeah, reinventing something based on someone's art. It's what I did with the Magic Gardens in Philadelphia. I took pictures of all the folk art, and then I made collages or other shit using those photographs to make my album covers or other things that I took pictures of over the years on road trips and stuff. But yeah, you're taking pictures of someone else's art and then you're cutting it up into a collage to create something else. That's kind of what sampling is. Just more of the, the sound side of things. But yeah, I just decided to play it safe and not sample anything like that without getting permission, even though it was only like 5, 6, 7 seconds. But all right, that's all. This is the end of my talk about the process of Passage. I'm not going to say which album I like better between this and Citizen Binary. They're both different experiences, even though the music is somewhat similar. And I stayed with the black and white theme. It's a black and white album cover for this one based on an old art doodle I made some months ago. And the reason I called it Passage, it was just simple. I just thought it sounded good. It was a simple one-word phrase or one-word album title that just doesn't mean anything. So I kept it very minimal and vague so I wouldn't... I don't know, I just liked it for this one. I'm not saying I don't want to create more complicated stuff later, but the minimalist approach is pretty good, I think. Just let the music stand out. I always had that general philosophy that the music is more important than the words or the poetry or whatever else. The music dictates whether people want to listen to it or not, if it gives them some escape. So that's really what I'm trying to focus on, which is why I went down that minimalistic approach to the words, the lyrics, the vocals. I just got rid of the stuff that that wasn't as interesting as the other lyrics that I originally had, I guess you could put it like that. But yeah, it's intended to escape. Music, I think it's there for people to escape, just like watching a baseball game for 2-3 hours or whatever you do to escape. That's what music, I think, is best for. It's not about politics or any of the image bullshit. If the music's good, people will listen, like Field of Dreams. If the music's good, people will listen. So I'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening. I'm going to put very tentative that I'll release this album on Saturday. I'll put on some finishing touches, listen to it again tonight and maybe the next couple days and see how it goes. So I don't have to go back a week from now and delete something. But I think the flow is really good from song to song. So I had to change it maybe 3 or 4 times before I was happy. But yeah, thanks for listening to this. Hopefully you got something from it. Hopefully you can relate to this if you make your own music or art. You can kind of see what I'm going through. And the process of creation is probably different for everybody, but everyone's got those voices inside telling them, oh no, that's shit. You got to put that first. No, take that, delete that. Everyone has those neurotic voices, unless you're some superhuman genius savant who doesn't have that in your brain. And that's why I didn't want to edit myself, but eventually, and I said this the last talk, you have to find a happy balance between being a first take improviser only and then also editing stuff. So yeah, it's cool if you can completely improvise a piece of work, a piece of music or art, and just go with it and don't go back and edit it. That is cool, but I don't think I'm there yet with confidence or anything. I could have done that, but I don't think it's as enjoyable if you don't edit it 8 tracks to get it to flow like a classical piece of music. You have to go back and edit things and cut things out, rearrange things to make it flow better. So there's nothing wrong with that. Either perspective, a blending of both philosophies, improvisation versus what do you edit, how much do you edit. You just have to find what you're happy with and try to tell the voices inside to fuck off. That's all. Thanks for listening. This talk went a little bit longer, but those are my final thoughts on Passage. Hopefully you can check it out. Again, it's going to be on Bandcamp for free. You can listen to it and see if you like it. Give it a shot. See what opinion you have of it. But that's all. Thanks for listening.